existed. And that is a very, very powerful thing. It's a very skillful thing to do. It's something that I don't find natural, I have to say. I have a theory with musicians and people in general. Why, hello, and welcome along to my channel. My name is Claire. I'm a flute player from Hull in East Yorkshire, and I'm still on a mission to discover music which uses flutes and to decide whether or not it gets the title of being flutifull or not. Now today, folks, we are entering the wonderful world of jazz. Now, excuse me, if you are a jazz fan or indeed a music fan in general, which I'm sure you are because you're right here, right now, then I invite you to check out the rest of my channel. I've got covers of all sorts of music, and I also live stream on a Sunday where you can come and hear me play live, and we have an awesome time chatting, sharing musical and flutifull facts with my wonderful community. So do check out the rest of my channel if you're interested in any of that. Right, back to today's jazz offering, and this is by a musician and flute player that I've not, sadly, come across before, and hence why I love doing these reactions, because you guys point me in the right direction, filling in my musical education for me. So this flute player is called, or known as, should I say, Herbie Mann. Now, Herbie Mann was born Herbert J. Solomon, and he is an American jazz flute player and, according to Wikipedia, an important early practitioner of world music. Giving you a few more facts on Herbie, he also played tenor saxophone and clarinet and bass clarinet, but he was among the first jazz musicians to specialise on the flute, so very important figure. And flutifull fact for you folks, his most popular single was Hijack, which was a Billboard #1 dance hit for 3 weeks in 1975. However, the track that I'm reacting to today is from before then. It's from the 1969 album of the same name called Memphis Underground, and this apparently is an album which fuses jazz and R&B, so sounds very exciting. Now, it did go on to become one of the best-selling jazz albums of all time. Rolling Stone magazine said that Memphis Underground is a piece of musical alchemy, a marvelously intricate combination of the Memphis sound and jazz lyricism. So I definitely think we're in for a treat here, folks. Now, this recording was taken from the Newport Jazz Festival in 1989. So, without further ado, are we ready? Here we go.
In case you don't get to church tomorrow.
Nice. And I mean that in the greatest sense of the word. I know people say nice and it's like, oh no, but yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow, that's quite something. Where do I start with that? Well, I love the track as a whole, because there's this wonderful sense of build, and the flute is almost the star of the show. I mean, the guitar and the bass is. I mean, everybody there. Wow. I just love the rise and fall of the track overall. So that beautiful kind of build up. We get the fabulous flute solo. We get the fabulous guitar, and then I was thinking, how is the flute going to come back in? And I'll talk about how that happened and what happened in a bit. And it was just wonderful. It was just wonderful. And yeah. So let's talk about the flute playing here. Well, he's got such a sweet sound, and it is just, he owns that sound. He doesn't try to make it bigger, he doesn't make it smaller. There's no kind of, I don't want to use the word tricks, because anything that anybody does is not a trick, but I hope you get what I mean. There's no frills. It is here I am. This is my flute sound, and boy, does it deliver. Or the one thing that I was thinking throughout the whole track, and in particular with Herbie Mann, is his sense of groove and his sense of rhythm. He finds the space between the notes and the space between the beats that you never even knew existed, and that is a very, very powerful thing. It's a very skillful thing to do. It's something that I don't find natural, I have to say. I have a theory with musicians and people in general, that you're either more kind of comfortable, shall we say, using pitch, or you're more comfortable using rhythm. And straight away to me, it seems that Herbie Mann is somebody who's just really, really, really massively comfortable and drawn to rhythm and groove. And there's just spades of it here. It's just wonderful to witness and wonderful to feel, because I think somebody who can use a rhythm and play around with it and like I say, find that something within the space, it's very appealing. It draws you in as a human, and you feel very comfortable listening to somebody who's so such a master of groove and rhythm. I think I read that he spent a lot of time working with musicians in Africa, and that's yeah, I mean, African music tends to be very, very rhythmic based, and I think if you go and experience that outside of our Western kind of use of rhythm a lot of the time, then it will open you up to that. So that kind of makes perfect sense to me. So yeah, just a fabulous flute playing to start with. Then it kind of builds. We get into that even more crazy kind of letting loose with the guitar and the bass, which is just mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing. I so admire jazz musicians that can just kind of do that and really fully improvise in that jazz idiom. I think it's something that takes a lot of skill and ability, and they're able to hear and think very, very quickly. But at the same time, they look so like relaxed and laid back. It's like, oh, how do you do that? Amazing. And then, like I say, I was thinking, how is he going to come in now with the flute, with this gorgeous sound that he's got, and kind of join in with that? Well, expertly done, and I assume this is part of the main track, like coming in with that little motif, and I think he was playing that with the guitarist as well, but what I loved was there was no kind of change of his sound. There was no kind of like, oh, I've got to do something to kind of get back in it. He was just like, here's the flute again, and then everything kind of gave way to the flute, this kind of magical moment where we get the main theme again, and just, yeah, such poise, such kind of delivery, and just, yeah, great. What it just, yeah, you can't argue with that, and you don't need to, because it's just wonderful. So thank you so much to David, who suggested this as a track that I should check out. I think it's just wonderful to hear musicians that can do this and embrace these styles and work together and just find something that's very difficult to find, and I want to say unquantizable. So musicians in the room will know what I mean. Like you couldn't get a computer to do that and get that groove and get that feel and do something quite so wonderful. So again, this is, if you saw my last reaction with Nightwish, I was talking about the human side of music making and getting away from some of the technology which has crept into the music industry, and I feel in a slightly damaging way, although of course technology is wonderful. If you saw that, you'll know what I'm on about, and I think this is another great example, because you can't teach this groove, and you can't get this groove to work through a machine. This is humans working together and connecting and feeling something that is kind of indescribable, and it's magic. So there we go. Awesome. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I'd love to know your thoughts on it, and hopefully you will join me again for another reaction, or perhaps even come along to one of my live streams. I'd love to chat to you there. So definitely Flutifull, awesome stuff, and gets my seal of approval. So thank you for watching. Hope to see you again very soon. Take care and stay Flutifull. Bye for now.